Hey folks, I just wanted to give you a heads up and let you know that on today's episode, we do talk a little bit about suicide and depression. We always leave some information in the notes for you if you or somebody you know is going through these things. Most importantly, we hope what you learned today is that it's okay to talk about it.
He's pulling out passing cars, and we were like half a kilometer from our school, and we pulled out to pass one last car, and we got hit by a semi-truck. And I was found with no pulse, not breathing.
Like changing of the seasons, nothing ever stays the same. Sometimes our world crashes down, all we know goes up in flames. A broken bone that heals is much stronger than before. Don't look down, keep your head up high.
Hi everybody, I'm your host, Don Amero, and today on the show we've got a wonderful musician, mentor, and my dear friend Robb Nash on Through the Fire.
You see the light.
Well, Robb Nash, thank you so much for joining me here today on Through the Fire. We are longtime buds,
Yes.
I think. Would you describe us as longtime buds?
Yeah, you're good in small doses. So we toured together for a minute, and so I didn't quite get tired of you. And that was
Slightly
good.
longer than a minute. It was a good 3 months.
3 months?
Do you remember the year?
No.
2014.
I have a head injury, bro.
Right. We're going to get into that head injury in a bit. But
Beautiful.
But I remember it was spring, early summer of 2014, and you had called me up, and I didn't know you knew who I was at that point in time. I'm sure I think word got around to you about what I was up to and sort of my artistic growth and stuff, and you had said, hey, we're doing this project where our guitar player just stepped away and wondering if you want to come in, and I had already known about you, and Eyewitness was your previous long time ago project.
Yeah.
So when you called me, I was like, oh cool, I know this guy.
Yeah.
And you talked and you invited me on the tour, and that's where it began in 2014.
2014?
So going to 2014, I was on tour with you guys. I stepped away. The tour kept going, kept
Yes.
running right up until, I guess, the pandemic, I would say, right? Or just before?
Well, so we had done 3 albums as Eyewitness, and then we got that big opportunity that you think you're all waiting for, and that was we got a record deal, and there was an Eyewitness in the States, so we had to change our name, and we changed it to Live on Arrival, and it was intimidating. We went from some smaller studios in Winnipeg. I'm flying out to Vancouver, and I'm walking through these hallways, and I'm looking at all these gold records. I'm like, where am I? And then you're sitting with these producers from LA and Vancouver, and they're like, we're gonna make sure you're writing hits, like we're gonna write an album together. And they're like, hey, so first song, what do you wanna write about? And I was like, I met this homeless guy at a soup kitchen. I wanna write about him. And they're like, okay. So we wrote a song called Hello Goodbye. And I remember one of the guys was driving to my hotel that night, and they're like, hey, that's cool that you got that off your chest, a song about a homeless person, but nobody on the radio wants to hear about homeless people. We need you to write hits. And it was funny because we had a massive launch party. Our label was, flying out different radio stations and schmoozing them in limos and 5-star hotels, playing our music, saying this is gonna be the next big thing. What you don't know as an artist is all those expenses, those limos and hotels you're gonna pay for as an artist later. That's all coming out of your pocket at the end of the day. It's a loan. And then the weekend before they released our song, they flew the 55 biggest radio stations out to Vancouver. And I'm backstage at this private club, and they're like, hey, we're gonna introduce you, just walk out and come out and we're gonna introduce you. And they're like, here he is, Robb Nash. And I walk out, and they had all these nurses with short skirts dancing around me, and I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but I was in a big car accident, and they were using it as a gimmick. And I was super upset because that was something very vulnerable part of my life, right? So Yeah, but then there was this after party. It was chaos. It was like the big rock star life. And then the following week, they released our song, and the song that everybody picked was the song about the homeless guy, and it went to number 3 in Canada, just like that. A lot of it was BS, you know, because you have to have the right people around you that can schmooze with those radio stations, and you need some money behind you to make that happen. But yeah, all of a sudden we got songs in the top 10, and we're touring with huge bands.
I know where your story, well, I wouldn't say where it began, because I don't know your early years, but I know there was, like you said, that car accident. Would you take me back to that, what happened, and let us know kind of what happened?
Yeah, for sure. So I was, you know, I grew up in small town Manitoba, very legalistic religious family, and you know, I wasn't allowed to listen to anything mainstream. But then I actually left to go to school somewhere else, to a school I'd never seen before. I was on a scholarship and bursary and stuff, and I went out there and I played drums, not guitar at the time. And everyone was like, "You play drums?" I'm like, "Oh, can you play Guns N' Roses? Can you play Nirvana?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to listen to." Wait, mom and dad aren't here. Maybe I can listen to this. And then I just got addicted to music. I was like, oh, just as a listener. But then I started playing guitar, and then had a high school band just for talent shows. Never thought I'd do it for a living, because my worst mark in school was music. I auditioned for the choir, and I didn't make it because my voice wasn't good enough. But I was just obsessed with music, and I lived out at this school from 15 to 18, away from my family and everything. And then, yeah, when I was 17, you know, you think you're indestructible. We went for a car ride. We were getting flowers for our dates for the, you know, the winter formal, you know, and we're flying back down these roads. My buddy, he only had his license for a few days, and wasn't very experienced driver, to say the least. And there was black ice, and everybody else is going, you know, 40 kilometers an hour, and we're going 120, you know, and he's pulling out passing cars. And we were like half a kilometer from our school, and we pulled out to pass one last car, and we got hit by a semi-truck. And I was found with no pulse, not breathing. And yeah, obviously I came back to life. The person that pulled up on the scene, the first person, just took a first responders course, so he resuscitated me. And I met him a few years ago, and he was the one that explained everything that he saw and resuscitating me. And he said he was trying to hold my skull together, because once my heart started beating, like even if you're cut, you know, if your heart's not beating, blood's not flowing, so it doesn't come out really, you know. Right. But once he resuscitated me, blood started pouring out of my head, because I had lost the side of my skull. And so he was trying to hold the skull together until the ambulance got there.
How were your friends? Were they injured?
Nobody was hurt.
Just
me, which is remarkable. You know, even the guy that I was talking about with the car, you know, he was in the back seat with me. He was my best friend. And yeah, he was like, everybody thinks my story is the dramatic one because I came back to life, but you know, he was the one that, you know, he realized like it's almost more miraculous that he wasn't hurt, you know. And yeah, they brought me to the hospital, and you know.
Do you have memories of these things, or is this what you're told?
No, I'm missing about 3 months, and so they got me to the hospital. They rebuilt my skull with titanium, and a lot of surgery started. And
you're in the hospital this whole time?
Yeah, and yeah, I woke up. I didn't know who I was or my parents, just because of the brain damage. And then, yeah, and then they let me go home, but I was still, like my sister talks about, you know, she was a hairdresser at the time, and she came to cut my hair. She came back the next day, and I didn't know she had been there the day before. I would get upset because I'm like, why aren't my friends visiting me? I was so alone. I was, you know, and my parents were like, all your friends came here yesterday. And then I was mad at my parents. I'm like, why didn't you tell me they were here? And they were like, you hung out with them all day. And even I went back to school because I just wanted to be back with people, you know. Like I understand what happens with, over the last couple of years with COVID, like people being isolated and being away and can't be with your friends and you can't play sports. That was my life in grade 12 because I'm 6'5". I played a lot of sports and now I couldn't do any of those things. I'm alone. So I just wanted to go back to school even though the doctor said I shouldn't. I went back to school. I don't even remember now going back to school. So there's about 3 months missing, but you know, through that everybody's throwing the cliches at you, you know, like, oh, you know, this was fate. I'm like, fate. Like, yeah, the bus had your name on it, you know. I had some family that told me that God was mad with me, you know, because I'm a bad kid, so he spanked me with a semi. That made me angry. But the most common thing people would say, and they still say to this day, and I know they say it with good intentions, but now I've met, on our tour, met with tons of people in prison, hospitals, funerals, and people say this phrase, and it does way more damage than good. People always say, everything happens for a reason. And some people take that and, oh, what's the reason this happened? And they do something great with it. For me, it was like, and a lot of people, it's like, what's the reason this happened to me? Now I'm like, this is like a life lesson. And I'm like, so I was bitter, I was angry. I'm like, so if I have no control, everything happens for a reason. So for 2 years, I was suicidal, I was hurting myself. I didn't want to be alive. Nobody knew, none of my friends or family. And then somebody came up to me and said the most amazing thing, and it changed my life. He goes, you're trying to figure out the reason this happened to you, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I know what it is. I'm like, what's the reason? He goes, you were going too fast on an icy road. He's like, shit happens. What are you going to do with it? I'm like, oh. And that sounds simple, but that set me free. I realized I'm not a puppet. I get to make some decisions. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? And now what I tell people that I meet with on tour is I say, like, there's some good things that happen that just seem beyond coincidence, you know, for sure. But to say everything happens for a reason, I don't like that. I always say bad things don't happen for a reason. Bad things happen with potential. My accident had the potential to leave me angry, bitter, suicidal the rest of my life, or there's a potential you can take your story and do something with it. So when I was done being angry, I was like, well, I got a second chance. Not everybody does. Maybe I should do something with it. And I was like, and I screamed at the sky, and I was like, I want to do something that matters. And I was like, and I thought I'd hear a voice inside of me telling me to like move to Africa and build a well, you know. And I would have done it, whatever I heard that in that moment, whatever prompting I felt. And what I felt was phone the semi driver that hit you and tell him you're alive. And I was like, what? So I phoned the police. I'm like, yo, can I get the number of the semi driver that ran me over? And the cops were like, no. But this voice wouldn't leave me alone, so I kept trying. And finally one cop gave me his number, and I got a hold of this big trucker from the US. And I said, do you remember that accident up in Canada? And he got real quiet. He's like, yeah. And I said, just felt that I should call you and tell you, like, I'm alive, like, I'm okay, I made it. And he starts crying. He goes, I'm so sorry about your friend, though. I'm like, what friend? He goes, the one that died and, like, crushed his skull. I'm like, no, that's why I'm calling, that's me. Found out he hadn't driven a vehicle since that day, and I was like, but the important part of that story isn't what happened to him, it's what happened to me. That was the first day I ever did something for somebody else, not just for me, and that felt good. And I wanted more of that. And I was like, how many other people have those same dark thoughts just like me, and they're holding it in? I'm like, I need to tell my story, and that's when I decided music would be a good way to tell a story, and started a band.
I'm always so fascinated when I hear that story, because I mean, I heard that, I've heard your story on the tour. You know, every day we'd be up playing and we'd be sharing these stories with students, and even still to this day, I find myself moved by all these things and how you articulate the memories of those times. And you know, you talk about sort of being inspired by, you know, people giving you the reality of that you have some control of your life. You're not just a puppet.
Yeah.
Is there, because you had to dig deep in yourself though too. Is there something that you would say, like that you would attribute to that, or other than just those good words being spoken to you?
Yeah, you know, I got through those times without getting help, which made it a lot harder. And I don't want anyone else to have to do that alone. Talk to the people around you, don't hold it inside. You know, like, we live in a world where it's like, especially as guys, you know, we're not supposed to express ourselves, be vulnerable, talk about our emotions. And, you know, now when I tour and I tell these stories, you know, yeah, I've told that story a lot, but I still mean it when I say it. It's like you can tell someone you love them more than once, but you could still mean it if it's real, and it's still very real for me. And yeah, I just want to tell my story so that other people don't have to die like I did before they start to live, you know, and don't just chase success, but chase significance.
One of the other things I think is worth highlighting here is, so through the work you've done in schools, and talk about, you've I know a big part of the topic is somewhat self-harm and kind of that piece of it.
Yeah.
I know you've had suicide notes handed over to you and razor blades and things like that along the way.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've probably lost count by now of how many things or do you know?
Oh yeah, I know. It's 917. That's something.
Right. You cherish those numbers.
The first time it happened was really unique. There was a school in Ontario that had a suicide, and they asked, "Hey Rob, can you come right away? We heard about your, effectiveness. We just had a suicide." And on this girl's suicide note, it revealed that she had a pact with one of her friends, like, if you kill yourself, I'll kill myself. And the principal said, we don't know who it is. So we flew out there, and then it was eerie, man. There's 800 students, let's say, in front of me, and somebody in front of me in the audience was about to take their life, and I don't know where they're sitting. And I'm like, and until that day, I had never talked about the fact that I was suicidal. I just said, I had this car accident, this is what happened to me, and make every day count because you're not promised tomorrow, right? That was it. I didn't want to say I was suicidal. I didn't want to go there. That's not fun. And I thought, what would people think of me if I revealed that weakness, But now we're in front of this audience, and I'm like, I have to say it. I have to say that I was there. And I got to this point in the show, I'm like, say it, Rob, say it. And I'm like, oh, I can't say it. I can't say it. What are the students going to think of me? What are the staff going to think of me? What is my team, my band members going to think? I've never said this to anyone. And I was like, I know somebody in this audience is thinking about taking their life. You're not alone. I was there once too. And I braced. I thought what was going to happen, but it felt like 1,000 pounds off me, just like, that felt good. And then the engagement between me and the audience, my band members went to another level. Now it's like people come up to you giving me hugs, and then this girl walks up and she's got this old crinkled up note that's, folded up, and she hands it to me. She goes, here. I'm like, what's this? She goes, it's my suicide note. I don't need this anymore. And she walked off with the school counselor. That was her. We were called there to find her, and we found her. And I was like, whoa, that was, and I talked with a police officer that I know that focuses on teen suicide, and I said, what happened there? That was not fresh. She didn't write that while I was talking. She had that with her. What was that? And they said, oh yeah, very rarely does a person write their suicide note the day it happens. They usually write it, carry it with them for 2 to 3 months before they take their life, waiting for somebody to push them over the edge, or for somebody to reach out and say, you're not alone.
Service is definitely a part. I've started saying less I'm in the entertainment industry and more in the service industry.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, my heart has always been, and I think that's why you and I jive so well together.
Yeah.
For when we jive. But is the fact that I sense this attitude of service in you.
Yeah.
And for me, it's definitely a big part of all of this is just to serve people. Like, because I know people out there listening, watching right now, they're going through stuff, and I think they're going through a fire.
Yeah.
And I know a piece of your story that's a part of the fire, and that's the major accident that could have been really detrimental, could have ended your life, but you just chose to use it as a pivotal point. When you look back at it, it's a pivotal point to change for you.
It's funny, I was on one interview, and at the end the guy goes, Rob, it was good that you were hit by that semi. And I was like,
screw
nope.
you, buddy.
I'm like, not really. And he goes, well, look what you've done with it. I'm like, the semi didn't make me do this. He goes, but if you could go back in time, you'd do it all over again, wouldn't you? And I'm like, no, I don't think I would. Because some people think you have to hit rock bottom to learn a life lesson. And you can learn lessons by hitting rock bottom, but you can also listen to the stories around you. And he goes, well, you're young. One day you'll realize you had to go through all of this to be who you are. And I was like, if you can convince me by the end of this interview that I had to get hit by a semi to think this way, I'm like, I'll stop my tour, I'll sell all of my guitars, I'll get a semi license, and I'll start running people over. He's like, well, don't do that. I'm like, well, you're saying I had to get hit by a semi to think this way. I don't think that's the case. That's why I tell my story. That's why you tell your story. We've all got stories. We can learn from each other, He goes, well, do you know Rick Hansen? I'm like, yeah, the guy in the wheelchair? He goes, yeah. He goes, well, he told me that he's glad he's in a wheelchair because of what he's been able to do with it. I was like, that says a lot about Rick Hansen, not about wheelchairs. Not everyone in a wheelchair has done what Rick Hansen has done.
Right.
Good for him. But that's not an automatic, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
He had to make some decisions.
I'm glad that you made the decisions you've made, man. I really
Right.
appreciate you coming on here to talk. There's one question I have left that I ask all my guests.
Oh boy.
Is there, just maybe for me more than anything else, because I'm always looking to see what's inspiring you, is there a book, is there a podcast, a documentary, or like something where you draw inspiration from? Could be music. Is there something that you listen to, that you watch, that you read, that you could kind of point me towards?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I, interestingly enough.
Other than The Office.
Other than The Office. Okay, now I have no idea. No, you know, I'm listening to podcasts nonstop, and you know, it's interesting. Growing up in a religious home, I was maybe 5% convinced that maybe there was some truth to it, you know, and just kind of played along. But I woke up from that coma and I was 100% convinced it was real. There was something more to this world than what we see here. And but I didn't know why. And then somebody in my family told me God was mad, so he spanked me with a semi. So now I was just bitter about it. But once I realized, you know, that it was my decisions, I didn't have to be mad at God or fate or anything like that. You know, I embraced you know, I think that we're created physical beings. The mental part, there's the emotion part, but there's the spiritual part too. So I'm always trying to soak in more spiritual stuff, but you'd be shocked if you look at what I watch, because I watch a lot of Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, all, you know, atheists, because I'm waiting for somebody to say something that would convince me that what I've felt, and now I have memories of what I saw in death that I'll write about one day. And I'm trying to wait for somebody to say something that convinces me that what I saw and what I feel inside and the promptings that I get aren't spiritual. I can't find it, but I like listening to it and hearing the holes in it and going, yeah, that didn't convince me, and that doesn't line up with what I saw here. So yeah, I love people that are just willing to, I like listening to both sides of every picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're so polarized right now, more than ever. And so, yeah, one of the issues I have with my brain injury is my short-term visual memory is really damaged. So if I read something, page 1, page 2, page 3, by page 4 or 5, page 1 is gone and I have to start over. So, but in the same way a blind person, their hearing gets lit up. If I hear something, I can watch a movie and quote it back to you. I can listen to a song and sing along after 2 listens, you know. So it's interesting how that was compensated. But so I don't read a lot, but I'm always listening to podcasts and listening to music and stuff. That's how I get fed with everything. And you watch everybody walking around, especially young people, they all got earphones in their ears. You know, what are you listening to? You know, because you better be careful of what you let go from here down to here. You know, you got to guard this part of you, because if you let the wrong voices in, you can do some damage. You know.
You always give me lots to think about, man. Appreciate you, Robb Nash.
You're my favorite, Donnie.
You see